Welcome back to Real Estate with Mariah and Spence. Will home prices finally drop after nearly 10 years, a decade of home prices continuing to increase? Will they finally fall this year in 2023?
This is like one of the biggest things we could ever talk about. This makes sense though. Everybody around us keeps asking me this week after week, every Sunday after Sunday. Spence, when is the housing market going to drop? Last week we touched on it very little, but it was when we were having our own experiences selling in 2018. That's 4 years ago, heading on 5 years ago. And we just thought, when is this market going to drop? Well, lead us into what you think prediction-wise. Will it drop? Will it rise? Will it remain normal?
We'll find out. Well, first off, I'm going to start off obviously by saying no one knows for sure, because we all know we've heard predictions and then like in 2020 and then the opposite happened. So we don't know for sure. But so last week we touched on a little bit more of, we focused more on like the local perspective. It wasn't really predictions. It was more like, this is what we're seeing right now as realtors. This is what we think is happening in the market, our perspective. Not necessarily housing market predictions. If you haven't seen that video after you watch this one, head over to our channel and watch last week's video. You'll want to know that information. But today we are focusing on the 2023 predictions for the housing market in 2023, because 2023 is rapidly approaching and we're almost heading into the new year. So
this is so important though, because every transaction we have right now, every lead that we have right now is going to be closing in the year of 2023. And so the buyer side, us brokers, us professionals have to be on the same page and understand how logically the buyers are thinking. Are they just not going to buy because of interest rates? Well, what if the interest rates never do come down again? Because we are sitting at a mid 5% interest rate, or excuse me, a little higher than 5%, maybe even a little towards the sixes now still. But that's still a really good rate if you look at it historically. So we want to kind of break down, I do at least, the psychological mindset of a buyer and be in the market daily. That's what I was doing all day yesterday, is actually calling for sale by owners and not really trying to gain more business by saying, hey, I'm Spencer, I'm going to take your listing. More like, what's the activity been like? Can you give me some insight as you have been a seller for X amount of days now? What's it been like? Because I really do want to know what it's like to be a buyer. That's really, really good. It is very important to stay up to date with what's going on in the market if you want to make the best decisions as a home buyer or a home seller.
Okay, and then also one more thing before we get into this as well. So this, what we're sharing, this is from an article on Forbes.com, and this is housing market predictions on a national level. Now, I know from hearing from other realtors that I'm connected with in all other parts of the country, it sounds like what we're seeing is pretty similar, in different places. However, this is national, and then we might, throw in a little bit of local things, but it's not just for our area. We are based out of Oregon, and if you are watching this and you are thinking about buying or selling in Oregon, we'd love to help you, but this is national.
Here is a question though, because I do know every area is different when it comes to sales prices.
Sure.
Now, when you have a higher sales price and higher interest rates, obviously that's going to affect your mortgage and your monthly mortgage. So what are people, from your opinion, has it hit quite yet? If you're looking at 1.4 mil and higher, are these homes tending to sit longer? Are we only doing price reductions? Because I know there are some areas still here in Oregon that are well over $1 million, and I look at them and I say, how is that even possible? This thing is built not even in recent times. It still has updates. The layout's funky, but is the location really still everything?
Right. I do think that homes in those price points, especially in our area at least, are taking a little bit longer to sell. The days on market have certainly gone up. Not to say that homes aren't selling. It's not anything insane that we're seeing in our area right now at least, but days on market for the higher price points have definitely gotten higher.
Okay. So if you're a seller out there or wanting to sell maybe in the future and you know your house is worth a certain amount of money, we also have to be realistic with the changes too in times. If this was 6 to 8 months ago, dang, yeah, I'm going to try it at that higher price and see where it gets me, because
Yeah.
odds are I'm finding that right buyer. Right now, things are more hesitant. And if you're in certain predicaments or situations, we do have to be smart with our pricing strategies, because I did just explore the MLS and see what was available, especially with more acreage properties in the mid-Willamette Valley. And things are sitting. I mean, I saw 90 days, 80 days, 120 days on market with 100, 150 at times price reductions.
Yeah.
And they're still available and on market. So will they sell? Yes, I do believe they sell. One thing that I revert to is, if it was $1 million, just plan on it being on market for a year. That used to be a real thing.
Yeah, for sure.
It really did.
No, like when I first got into the business, there weren't that many $1 million houses on the market in Salem specifically. I'm not talking, we work in the Portland market as well and other markets surrounding Salem, but specifically in Salem, there were hardly any. And if it was $1 million house, it would sell, but it would take like a year. And over the last year or 2 years, I have never seen so many $1 million homes all of a sudden in Salem. Not a lot of them are, I don't think, worth $1 million if they're listed for that. But I've also never seen so many $2 million homes in our area, just because, this isn't an area that typically has that much of that price point for sale. But very interesting. That's true.
Let's jump in it.
Okay.
We got some Forbes predictions.
Yes.
What do we got, Mariah?
Okay, so the first prediction, in a Tuesday report, Redfin economist Taylor Marr predicted existing home sales will fall 16% on an annual basis next year to about 4.3 million, their lowest level since the aftermath of the Great Recession in 2011, as high mortgage rates, persistent inflation, and a potential recession continue to deter would-be buyers. So less, that prediction is basically just saying
Can
less.
you go back to that first sentence real quick?
What it was saying was less home sales. So predicted existing home sales will fall 16% on an annual basis. So just less people buying and selling in general.
Yes, so that 16% number to me made it feel like, oh my gosh, I'm losing 16% equity. And year over year, that is what we've gained and reached. So that's why my mind went there.
No.
That is not what that meant.
Yeah.
It was 16% in decrease of listings.
Of not listings, of just sales in general.
Sales.
Yes.
Okay. Which I think that makes sense.
It does.
Because we feel it right now, as top producers in this industry, you understand when sales kind of slow, but then also your sales, they average out because of the amount of sales prices we're able to obtain through the sales. So you can have less sales, but then still make equal or even more amounts of money in this business if you are working still.
Yeah.
But I hear it all the time in our industry is, man, dude, this is hard. I haven't been able to get a listing for a while. Man, people are a little bit rougher than it used to be. It's not as easy to get a listing appointment. I'm having to call 2-3 times the amount of people just to get my foot in the door. And that is a testament, though, for what you just read.
Less
because we are having less listings. And there's nothing wrong with that, because here's why. It's going to keep your equity up as a seller, I believe.
Yeah, that's so true. Yes, that's very true. Another thing I think on a realtor note, this show or podcast is for anybody. It's not necessarily, this isn't like realtor focused, although a lot of our audience that I've talked to are agents. I think one thing that I think will happen is there's less deals going on, and I think a lot of agents or people that are licensed will get out of the business. And so, although there will be less deals, there will eventually be less realtors. And I heard somewhere yesterday, the average agent in our country sold, I think it was like 2.5 or 3 houses in like the year.
No, they didn't.
Yes.
Last year's
but
numbers.
Think about all the people who didn't. Yes, that's average.
It used to be like
but
7
the
to
thing
10.
is, think about all the people. No, I think the average for like our whole nation. I think that
if you go
because
that big
you
number.
have to consider all the people who just have their license and not even part-time.
Just one deal.
Just have it.
Yeah,
you know
they
what
don't
I mean?
even make a sale.
They literally just have it and hang it, and they just like, maybe I'll buy a flip or like that. Don't take it. It's not their job. So it does make sense because there's a lot of people like that. But I think a lot of that type of situation will be like moving out and
I get that.
Anywho.
Because real estate costs money, man.
It does.
It costs a lot of money. I just had to pay a $700 fee to the NAR, National Association of Realtors.
Yeah.
That's for you and I both. That's $1,400 just because of it.
Yeah, and there's fees like that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Send me an email and I pay.
If you're not really doing it, it's not necessarily worth it. But anyway, that's another story. Okay. Next prediction is, though he expects a slow recovery in the second half of the year, Mar forecasts the decline in home sales will help push the median price, and again, and this is median price, not for our area. If you're local listening to this, this is nationally. This will push the median price for existing homes down from $379,000 in October, 4% to roughly $368,000 next year, making this the first annual drop since 2012.
I'm not completely against that quote. I'm not against that prediction because there's going to be less home sales. I can almost attest to that. I feel that happening. But then again, like I just said, just in my area alone, the amount of price reductions, but also days on market, is going to affect my sellers. And then we got to realize, what else can they buy? Yeah. There really has to be a why in every transaction. Well, why am I doing this? Well, it's to get you somewhere you really want to be. And that could be out of state or across counties. That's the biggie. What's it worth to you? And with there being less sales, sometimes you are vulnerable in a home sale. And I'm going to use that word because I've been there. I think we shared it a little bit last week, is when we were vulnerable in a contingency deal, I needed to sell in order to purchase. I was able to reduce price, and I was happy with it because here's why. I bought 3-4 years ago. If this is you, as the audience listening, if you buy a home 2, 4, 5, 6 years ago and you've had that piece of real estate, regardless, you're up. For the most part, you're up on equity, you're up in the circumstance, you're up in making money. But now, does it really make sense with your purchasing property? Because also, that value is now up as well. So it's a numbers game. Yeah. It's a numbers game. Were you shaking your head on the side? No.
Okay. I'm just not. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you.
I saw you from the side of me, Mariah. Sorry.
No.
Okay, so if the numbers make sense, we got to do it and realize, maybe you might take a $20,000 price cut to get your home sold and get you where you want to be, but you're still up on your equity side from when you bought it years ago. Yes,
exactly. So what, like you were saying, listen, the average American right now, I said this last week.
Am I just reading Forbes?
No. Oh, okay. I'm just kind of going off of what you said. This brought something up to me into my mind. Great. So I mentioned this last week, but the average American has somewhere around $200,000 at least, it may have been a little more, equity in their home right now. This prediction, it's just a prediction, doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I think it very well could. But the prediction said they predicted it to drop 4%. Now, okay, you have that much equity, the average American, and it drops 4%, you're still doing pretty good.
What's 4%
depending on when you. So the drop
from $8,000.
Yes. It's not that big of a drop to make
that's
people...
That's less than your closing cost you put down on
Exactly. It's not a position to make all these people like upside down in their homes and in horrible positions. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't... Anyway, okay, so the next prediction. Prices would fall more if not for a lack of homes for sale. I definitely agree with that. He explains, noting total inventory should remain near historic lows, thereby preventing prices from plummeting as the gloomy outlook deters more potential sellers from listing their homes for sale.
Which makes our job a lot harder.
Yeah.
If you're another broker listening to this, that's going to make your job a lot harder.
Yeah, I'm ready though. I'm so ready.
Exactly.
I'm so ready. But anyway, like prices would fall more if not for a lack of homes for sale. Like, let's just think about that.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, that's one of the things I think in our economy that's stopping prices from dropping more is the fact people have a lot of equity in their homes and we still are at record low inventory. So unless all these people just start putting their homes on the market, which
I don't see happening
because they're rates and they're not in foreclosure situations. Like some people are, but it's not with all the equity. That's one of the biggest things that I think separates this from when people compare right now to 2008 is there was not this insane equity rich, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like situation. So anyway, okay. Bill Adams says the economy will likely be more resilient to this housing correction than when the 2000s housing boom went bust, thanks to mortgage underwriting standards becoming stricter after the Great Recession and most homeowners being in generally better financial shape.
I love that statement.
Yeah.
I really do, because we've been living with it. We've had challenges even with our own personal home purchases, and it is because underwriting process has become better. They protected you guys as the consumer, but also our economy too, because real estate is a big part of our economy, and there's big money out there, and they just can't lend to anybody. So I'm really glad that our lending institutions have taken somewhat of the right precautions. Yes, are there loopholes? Probably. I'm sure somebody can find a loophole no matter what they want to do. So, sorry, our neighbor was outside, guys. He distracted me. But there are loopholes. But what I'm saying is, I am very, very glad that our underwriting purposes have tightened the reins, as they would say.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just because they want you to provide the right documentation.
Yeah.
That's really it.
Nevertheless, Adams, same guy, said he also expects average home prices will fall by mid-single percentage points through the middle of next year, with larger declines in tech-centric regions and areas where affordability was most stretched prior to the correction, particularly the West Coast, where the tech industry's correction is having an outsized problem.
I've been hearing this often.
Is that us?
Yeah, no, we are the West Coast.
We are, well, yeah, but we are an area where there's, some tech here, and there's also we're also an area where I think affordability has really been stretched in home prices compared. I never really think of it this way because I'm so used to it here. I lived here my whole life. I look at the home prices and it's what's normal to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you talk to someone moving here from, many other places in the country, we are, we're up there in prices compared to a lot of places. So,
well, the thing I really keep my eye on, especially when we do talk about the tech industry and what industries you live around to keep your market healthy, stable, and strong, is your workforce. And what type of employment is the most common for your area? That's a big one. Because say something changes, well, is unemployment going to increase or decrease? That's a biggie, because now people are going to be able to pay their mortgage or not be able to pay their mortgage. I remember when a plant in a small town goes out, this was like 2 years ago, I just kept hearing, this is my small town community as well, I just kept hearing, oh man, I'm just going to wait for all these foreclosures to happen, because they were relying on the people that lost their jobs to then not be able to pay their mortgage. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
They jumped into another job, a suitable job that worked for them to create wealth, money, to pay their mortgage.
Yeah.
Luckily, our workforce has been strong. But as we head into 2023, 2024, that's going to be a big one. Yeah. I've heard and I've read and I've seen the headlines about big tech industries making massive cuts. You talk about Facebook. Mm. You talk about Zuckerberg making that announcement. Mm. That's not easy to do. If I have that many employees and I've worked and I've built, I got this pride behind me. I got this something saying, no, I don't want to let this go. Yeah, you ever watch Wolf of Wall Street, for instance? He built this big company, okay? And, he did his thing. He manipulated a little bit. But he worked. He was a worker, okay? He lived the dream. And he could have turned himself in, not even that, but just cut the company and hire a new CEO. And he walks away still filthy rich. No, he wanted to stay in it and keep his employees there. But if the head honcho in today's world, Zuckerberg, is willing to make those type of cuts, I almost can guarantee you something is coming in our workforce.
Yeah.
Something is coming. So the only thing I guess I could conclude on is pay attention to your workforce. Pay attention to the jobs. Pay attention to your unemployment rate. But also, I was just reading about college, academics. So what's your degrees? What area are you in that requires a degree in order to get hired? Get your hand raised for the job. I don't know. Mm. In my area, it's a rather lower rate. Mm. But there are some specific areas in this country where the workforce surrounding you requires certain things. And if you don't have them, you won't get your hand raised for that job interview. You can try, but time runs out sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, the next prediction is, in a Tuesday email, I'm not going to try to say his name because it's going to butcher it. A director at Investment from Yield Street said markets like Phoenix, Las Vegas, Boise, and Dallas, which saw a 30 to 40% surge in home prices post-COVID and have a large supply of new homes being built right now, are more likely to see prices plummet 20% or so, though many markets will see smaller declines. Interesting.
I got a buddy I was talking to in Texas, and he said he's already seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Things are not like catastrophic, but he's just like, yeah, these new builds, there's less new construction.
Yeah.
It's getting stale.
Phoenix is one of the places mentioned. I'm hearing from realtors that I've heard from in Phoenix that in just like that general area that they're already seeing like prices decline. So, which I don't, we haven't necessarily seen in our area yet. So
but then again, keep in mind of your equity.
Yes. Yeah.
No, because the prices only decline for those current listings that are selling. Now, did they overprice themselves out of the gate? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a thing.
You got to realize what's realistic to buy in a market like this and what's not. Well, seller, agent working for the seller, is your agent good and just doing what he's telling you, or is he being the professional, stepping up and getting it done for you to get you where you need to be, just like the situations I was talking about?
Yeah. Okay, so what to watch for? This is interesting. Prices will start to decline in the first quarter, says Marr, predicting a modest 2% fall early in the year, followed by a steeper 5% decline in the second and third quarters before the recovery sets in later in the year.
I'm happy with that because I hear recovery.
There's hope.
You can win the storm.
Well, the thing is, yes, it has to do what the market's going to do what it's going to do, and you just hold on. It's going to fix itself. It's going to correct itself. It's going to be okay. Hold on. If it's not a good time for you to sell, hold on to your home. Stay in there. Keep paying off that mortgage. Like, things will get better. Surprising fact. Amid the housing bubble of mid-2000s, the median sales price for a home peaked at $257,000 in early 2007, only to tumble 19% over the next 2 years. Okay, now, what I couldn't imagine, I didn't realize that back then 19% was the number homes dropped. I believe in 2020, home prices rose 19%. The appreciation rate, home equity-wise, home prices went up in 1 year 19%, and that is an insane drop. I've been a real estate agent since 2015, and it's always been, since I've been in the industry, it's always been considered, even though there's been slower times and faster times with the market, it's always been like a seller's market. It's always been like, oh, it's a hot market, like more people buying and selling, whatever. Like, that's always been how you described the market. And so that means prices have always been going up every year since I've been in the industry. But that 1 year, seeing how much my home sellers that purchased in, this year sold for a year later, literally a lot of people were doing that, we did it, and how much money they were making from just living in their home, not touching it for a year, was insane. And so knowing that, like seeing that as a realtor, it's hard to imagine prices dropping 19%. That's like the same amount. Now, I'm not saying, don't hear this wrong, I'm not predicting that, and this article isn't predicting that. This is just what happened back in the last housing market correction. So that's not a prediction, dropping 19%.
Right.
But that's just like I'm just like processing this right now because it's a little mind blowing to put in perspective.
And keep in mind though, if you don't have equity in your home, the home cuts 19% like that, your best option, don't sell. Mm-hmm. Don't sell. And that's why I was reverting to the workforce. Keep in mind your employment in your area, your specific area. Make sure that your employment is good, because then you'll be good. That's kind of what matters. Because obviously if you're losing all that equity you just bought a year ago, 2 years, you're not going to sell it. But if you bought 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, man, you're still sitting in a great boat already. And with that equity, that drop, that 19% metaphorically, if it did happen, you're still able to sell. So that's why we may see a decrease in home sales, is because the individuals that have bought more recent, you might be sitting a little bit longer, So if you don't like your home right now and you just don't see yourself living there in the next 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, you see future events happening, maybe now could be the time to get your home for sale.
Yeah.
It's not a bad time. It's just swap it.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to be doing.
Definitely.
You're going to be swapping a home for another home.
Definitely.
Because you still got that equity.
Definitely. It's never a bad idea to run the numbers and see, will this make sense? Will I lose money? Will I gain money? Will I just stay the same and just live somewhere else I want to live? Like, what is your situation? Just figure it out instead of just assuming, oh, it's a bad time. Like, actually do the numbers. It might not be. Okay, so to sum all of this up, the housing market has suffered from dwindling demand as the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes drives up mortgage rates and the cost of home buying. According to the National Association of Realtors, existing home sales in October fell for the 9th consecutive month to an annual rate of 4.4 million. Ushering in the declines, the average rate on the popular 30-year fixed mortgage has more than doubled over the past year. The Fed slowing down their rate hikes will send a signal that we are close to the bottom. Expect that to happen by summer 2023. That was the end of the Forbes prediction.
Ooh. No, I love predictions, man. And it's because it is a prediction. Nothing's set in stone. So what we can do is digest what's happening for you in your own personal life. So as our audience, you out there, what's happening around you? What do you hear your peers talking about? Yes, we are somewhat on the same page nationally when it comes to real estate and the tension and maybe what type of market we're in. We are in a buyer's market. We really are. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it can be really good if you're on the buyer side. It could be bad if you're on the seller side. So it works in both ways. So say you're a seller, you're going to then be a buyer buying a home, right? So imagine the savings you could get when you decide to negotiate for your next property. Every circumstance is different. So we don't have the crystal balls.
Yeah.
Forbes doesn't have the crystal ball.
Yeah.
But what we have is data, and the data does show slowing.
Yeah.
That is the reality of things.
Yes.
Now, does slowing mean crash? Does slowing
Not
mean
necessarily.
the world stops, air stops, there's no more waves in the ocean? No.
I think we all know that this housing correction is very needed because, like, again, we talked about this last week, but what we're seeing right now is much more normal than what was going on in 2020, 2021. Historically low interest rates, extreme insanity in the housing market, people offering their leg and their arm just to get a house accepted. That wasn't normal. That wasn't a healthy housing market. This is much more normal. And now I know, I know home prices are high and interest rates are high, and that makes it really difficult for a lot of buyers. So I'm not saying that that's normal, but like what we saw before wasn't normal. So, yeah.
I think that's a good way to conclude the show.
Yes.
Mariah, where can people find us, and if you've made it this far?
Yes, okay. So if you have made it this far, if you head over to our channel, we have a plethora of playlists where we have many different topics relating to real estate. Head over to our channel, go check them out, subscribe if you haven't already. We come on here every single week and we talk about real estate. Also, if you are thinking about buying or selling and you live in the state of Oregon, we'd love to help you out. We are a top producing husband and wife real estate team here in the Willamette Valley. Our contact information is in the description below. And if you're thinking about buying or selling anywhere that's not in the state of Oregon, contact us and we will help you connect to a solid realtor in your area if you don't already have one. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.